Hey guys, Chris here, and welcome to a new episode of How To. Today, how to play with the Vikings. So this will not be a tutorial about playing the Vikings, but to play and draft with the Lost Vikings. Why is this important? Well, I've seen a lot of people play Vikings in Hero League, but they don't get a good combination of heroes together with them, or the team that plays with the Vikings doesn't even actually understand what the Vikings do and how you take advantage of them. So, first things first, you normally play Vikings with two different compositions to win. The first one is a push composition, meaning you draft 4 other heroes around the Vikings that can push a lane while the 3 Vikings soak their lanes. So we have here Shiny is playing the Vikings for us in this Team League game. He has the 3 Vikings split up, 2 of them are top and mid, and then he still has 1 Viking on the bottom in case we have to rotate. We're playing a composition of Sylvanas, Johanna, Li Ming, and Brightwing. And Brightwing is not the best healer for this because we will move, or we will have to move, but Li Ming and Sylvanas are great for this. So first we get ganked. We didn't play this very well, so our push is definitely stopped right away. That being said, the enemy comes here with 5 heroes, which is the worst thing to do against the Vikings, because you will now lose XP in 2 lanes. So even though they get a kill, they actually are behind in XP. So the push composition with the Vikings is basically that you will push 1 lane while the Vikings soak the other 2 lanes. So obviously this is only viable on maps that have 3 lanes. On 2-lane maps, the Vikings are not as strong anyway, so you probably want to avoid them in those. So the other combination that you can play with the Vikings is basically just very simple, a ganking combination. So that could be Tirana Muradin, an Uther, etc. Excuse me, anything that basically allows you to rotate on maps, for example on Infernal Shrines, and try to pick off heroes while they're doing the rotations. So this helps you on maps that allow rotations. As I said, Infernal Shrines, as I said, for ganking, but also to provide your team and the Vikings more space, because once you gank an enemy, they're out of lane. So for example, in this case, when we have 5 on bot with the small Viking here with Eric, this means we're 5 heroes down there, so they're contesting us with a couple of heroes. That being said, we're pushing, so that's easier. But the good thing about ganking composition would be we take out Greymane, they don't get any experience in the mid lane. We take out ETC, they don't get any experience in the top lane. So a ganking lineup heavily depends on getting picks. Where the pushing lineup that we're playing here has the huge advantage that it's not reliable on picks, or reliant on picks. We're basically just pushing, we already have a fort down here, and we're continuing to rotate up. Now we're gonna try to push mid or top, and the enemy has to react to that. Unfortunately for them, this is again a Team League game, they drafted a full melee comp and wanted to play Bloodlust. All of those heroes come online very late, and they obviously also rely on level 10. So with us having Sylvanas and the Vikings, we're pushing like crazy. We already took down 1 lane. They're defending with 3 people, which is, you know, necessary because the other 2 people have to soak the lanes. And for us that means we can push very easily. Now, their composition is pretty weak, that's why I'm speeding it up a little bit, because basically they're now not even able to contest the tribute, because they don't have that early game pressure that they need to contest us. And that's something that should happen against the Vikings. Like, if you play against the Vikings, you need to normally contest every objective with 5 people and get it quickly. In this case, the tribute has to be contested by 5 people, they have to get the tribute, and well, there's nothing else to do. Good for us is that obviously with the push lineup, we already have a lead in talents, and we're continuing to push forts on top of the normal soak that the Vikings provide. So with this, we're taking out now the second fort. I'm going to speed it up again a little bit. And with this now, we look at the situation that we have top fort and bottom fort down. That means that the bosses that spawn here, both of them, basically will go through keep or to keep directly. This early, we're only like 4 minutes into the game, it's really bad for them. Again, the composition is really bad against the Vikings, and I think we actually picked them pretty early, so they just wanted to play a fun little composition that just didn't work out against the Vikings the way that we're playing them. So this tribute now is actually in a bad situation or bad position for us, because it's the defensive side for the blue team, meaning we shouldn't be able to contest this or even get it. Unfortunately for them, they're all split up, doing something up top here. Butcher is bottom, nobody's here to contest us, and we're getting it. This should never happen against the Vikings. Especially not when you're on the same talent level. We're 8 versus 9, meaning we get the heroics soon, but we don't have them yet. So that was the best time to fight us, and they didn't. So again, the Vikings are just soaking XP. One of them just died top, so Chinese moving Baylog up. We're getting... Actually, Butcher died against Eric. We're pushing mid. We have one Viking bottom, one Viking top, soaking the XP, and as you can see, we're already 2 levels up. This means there's nothing that they can do against us, and this is exactly why the push composition that we're playing is working very well. Basically, Sylvanas just disables towers, obviously, and then even if they engage it with 5 people, this is the worst time to do so. We just got our heroics, and we're playing disengage composition. I play Emerald Wind on Brightwing. We have Silence obviously on Sylvanas, but we also have Wave of Force on Li Ming. So whatever they do or try to do, they will not get us because we're gonna disengage on them. So this is an issue for them, especially because they're not level 10 yet, and we're getting the 3rd tribute. So you might imagine what's happening now. We're gonna contest the boss. So let's beat up again one more time. They're still not level 10. Our heroics are coming back online, or at least a couple of them. We get a pick, Greyman gets rooted up here, and we're just gonna take the boss. While our Vikings are still soaking XP. So this shows you even more that with this kind of composition, if you get an early lead, there's not a lot of things that the enemy can do. So we have a boss now. We have heroics coming up again. My Emerald Wind is on. We have anything only missing the Blessed Shield from Johanna, and we're going through keep at minute 7. So they have to defend up here because there was a camp pushing as well. We're just taking the keep even before the boss arrives. So while you might think an early boss like this is not very dangerous, with this push lineup we basically disabled everything, and they're engaging into us in the wrong way again. ETC jumps in alone. I'm pushing everybody back. There was Bloodlust. He may be silencing one person, but basically that's game. Because boss is on core as well, and we're just, you know, having the better composition in this. So as you can see how quickly this can run out of place if you have Vikings in your composition and a push composition. So this was the first glance on what Vikings can do and how you can do it with them. We're gonna swap over now to a league match that we played a couple of days ago with the Vikings, which first of all lasted a little bit longer, but also showed more of how Vikings can be played and what you can play with them. So stay with me and I'll be right back. So here we are now in our Heroes Lounge League game that we also played with the Vikings, and as you can already see, the draft of the enemy was much better than the one that we just saw on Curse Hollow. We went with the same composition, except that we took Malfurion because they picked Brightwing first. Also on Sky Temple because you have the shorter lane from bottom to mid bottom. Rotation wise, you can't pick Brightwing, I think, with the Vikings because she's just too slow and will need to stay on one lane, while Malfurion can just mount up. So we have the same setup, and again, this is how you should play with the Vikings in a push composition. You split up the Vikings, that's very ordinary, and then you have one lane where you push with your 4-man squad, or in our case with 5 men if you take Eric as a 5th person. Again, we're going bottom to take out the tower. Again, we're not doing it very efficiently. We probably should have done this on the top lane or in the mid lane. Well, mid lane is probably the worst lane, but on top, because everybody expects you to go bottom. So we do get some damage in here, which is not the worst thing, but obviously you want to avoid that. So for the enemy, they have been in a pickle now due to the draft. They drafted Tessa the Tracer, and as you might have seen in an earlier video of mine, Tessa the Tracer do struggle against, well, they do struggle in the early game, that's what I wanted to say. Without level 4 on Tassadar, or maybe even level 7, you struggle, and now, as I said also in my video, they are playing double support with Tassadar, with Tracer. I don't really like this because exactly what's going to happen to them now is happening if you pick a second support. You're lacking damage. So let's have a real quick pause here. We have 4 strong heroes in the bottom, with Sylvanas having a very good early damage in the game. She's disabling also the towers, so that's pretty good. We have Malfurion, who's out-healing Tassadar easily. He's also providing mana to his team. And then we have Johanna, who can blind Tracer, and we have Li Ming, who provides some burst damage. So they have to now play with Gul'dan, Tassadar, and Tracer in the bottom. Why is that? So for them to engage into us, they have to try to stop the push composition, because they don't have any push on their own. For them, it's very, very difficult to actually push lanes. Muradin is a crap laner. Like, he doesn't have any push power until maybe later when Thunderclap does enough damage to clear a wave. Brightwing is okay-ish. She doesn't clear waves very quickly, as you can see. That's a pretty big wave that has accumulated here. And she also needs to take care of her allies. So whenever somebody is in trouble, she has support in. So she's not very reliable on that lane. So she will also struggle, but she's probably the best laner that they can send, because Tassadar wants to be with Tracer, and then Tracer wants to be obviously with Tassadar, and Tracer has like the worst wave clear of this lineup, I think. So with this in mind, we basically outdrafted them in this situation. They don't have any wave clear. They want to fight all the time, but they also need to see how they can cope with our composition by pushing into them. So for them, it's very difficult to contest things in terms of lanes, and what we're doing now is a mistake by contesting a temple, I think. Early game, we probably should have not fully contested that with 4 people, but try to keep split up, because this now allows them to be on the same level that we are. They're on this lane, they're going to try to contest us here, and we're basically allowing Brightwing to stay up here because we're not doing anything to push lane. If you, for example, say bottom pushed, this could have been a good choice, because they have obviously 2 temples that will give them a similar push, but they have to react to that. And the first couple of temples don't take out forts even if you get them fully. So if you take a fort out early, you might do more damage. That being said, we decided to stay together and contest the temple. For them, again, it's very difficult now, because they have to also rotate to us and contest the temple with us, because they can't lose temples and lane XP. So here, as you can see, again, early game with Tassadar Tracer is not the strongest. We have been up a level for a while now. Nice reaction by the Tassadar here, by the way. And we're basically staying together as 4. This is very important with the Vikings again. This is how you play with the Vikings. You always stay in a group with the 4 people that are not Vikings. That's very, very important. And now we're doing a mistake. We're going up here because we see that a couple of temple shots have been left, and now Johanna and Sylvanas go up. This is not what you should be doing. As I said, you should be staying together. We're getting a kill here, which is great and everything, but as you can see, the enemy team is rotating up, while Malfurion and Li Ming are staying mid, because we don't have a Viking here mid. A Viking died, so we're not playing this correctly. We should stay together. Johanna fortunately got all the rest of the shots, so we're actually getting out with an advantage, but that's not how we should be playing. And this is exactly what I see in a lot of Hero League games playing with the Vikings that people don't understand. The Vikings should be soaking the lanes, and you should have 4 people that do something together. That's either ganking or laning or doing something else. For example, on Blackguard's Bay, maybe doing camps together or whatever. So there's a lot of things that you should be doing with the Vikings, but you should never be split with the 4 heroes that are not the Vikings. I'm speeding up this a little bit, just to show you what's going to happen into this game. Again, we're still not together. We have like 2 people here. I ported back with my Furion, and I'm going top now for some reason. These guys are fighting bottom, so this is actually pretty bad. We shouldn't be doing this, and my team is without a healer. I'm not even there, and our communication in this situation was really bad. So we realized that after the fight, and we're actually still doing pretty well against them, because again, early game Tassadar Tracer is not the strongest. So now we're all back reunited, finally, and exactly what we wanted to do is continuing. We're pushing, and this is really, really important. For them, they're making the same mistake that we did. They're now just staying 3 bottom, because they did it at the beginning of the game. Now, all of them are rotating, because they don't know what to do. And this is exactly what you need to take advantage of with the Vikings. Stay with 4, force the enemies to react to you. Because what they're doing is very clever in terms of a normal game. You want to contest bottom really quickly, because bottom is where the second temple always spawns on Sky Temple. So with this, you always want to contest bottom first, and then see what happens around the fight here. But we're pressuring the top fort, and building damage is the worst that you can get on Sky Temple, because later on the temples will activate and shoot on the keeps first, or even go on core very quickly if you lost too many buildings in the early game. So now, again, with their composition, they have a hard time to actually contest us. They now have 4 people up, Brightwing, Murden, Tassada, and Tracer at the bottom here, and they have to fight us. But they're only 4 again, so we have a 4 versus 4 on equal talents, but again, we still have the stronger early level, or early game. They don't have anybody mid. Gul'dan is now rotating up. I think he accidentally hit the boss here, but he also has a push bottom, and temple is spawning. So with this, we're forcing them to do a rotation up here with 4 heroes to contest us. As you can see, we're standing pretty defensively, because we know that they're going to come. You saw Tassada. We know that Tassada is always going to be with Tracer. And as you can see, she struggles quite a bit against us. On top of that, again, I said double support with Tracer Tassada is not my favorite. This is because you lack damage, but also if you take a healer like Brightwing, she doesn't have a targeted heal until level 10. So that's something that you should also keep in mind that our enemies did. They picked a second support into it, but also one that doesn't directly heal anybody with a healing spell. They have to wait for the passive proc. So once Tracer is down, they have a problem. Again, we're just pushing here now, and we can even steal their camp. Like, we're not even contesting the objective on the bottom, because we are so much ahead. And now we're level 10. We can take their keep. We can keep pushing here, because now we have a night camp or a bruiser camp, and Sylvanas just disables the towers. Now we're a little bit split, because the Viking gets chased. We just lost the Viking in the mid. So we have to be a little bit careful, but again, we're level 9 was level 11, so we have the heroics, they don't have the heroics. We want to fight here. That's what we want to do. We want to fight here, and we want to also keep creating space for the Vikings. Again, they're now very close to level 10, so we should have probably left earlier. That being said, they have the same 4 people up here. They don't have cooldown, so they don't have any burst damage. They don't have any additional damage to Tracer, basically. And Gul'dan is bottom and contested the shrine, which was good. But now he has a very long way to come up here to fight. And again, they're not 10. And while they're coming up, rotating to fight us here with 5 people, our Viking is soaking bottom, the other Viking is going to mid, and so on. So this is how you play with the Vikings. Stay together and force the enemy to react to you. We're gonna fight here. Nice silence by me. Follow-up silence coming from Sylvanas. Boom. And we actually killed somebody before they got their level 10s. And with this, obviously, they're level 10 now, but we killed 2 people, so we're definitely trying to posture around here, threaten to take the keep. And we take the Valor by Li Ming. Well done there. So now we're going back, because the respawn timers are very short, and we know there's going to be more objectives coming up soon. So we don't repeat the mistake of the early game. We stick together now. Li Ming and Johanna ported back for mana. And we're taking objectives. We take the night camp, rotate down, we take the bot camp. And as you can see, we're still level up, maybe even 2 levels, once we get into lane again. We're a little bit split here, but that's just because I want to take the camp with the Vikings to help them, and now I'm with the team again. I'm not showing, just so that the enemy has to keep guessing. And again, the enemy team now has to have Brightwing up top to de-push that night camp really bad. On the bottom, there are 2 people here. The other 2 people are here. They're a little split up. We're fighting against the Tracer, and we get her. So now we're basically already pushing so hard and having such an advantage in talents that they have to react to us so hard that they make mistakes. And that's exactly what you want to do with the Vikings. You want to force the people that play against you to make mistakes. And the Vikings are always your fallback. Even if you get wiped with your 4-man, the Vikings are still soaking 2 lanes. So the enemy, of course, gets, you know, XP for the kills, but they're not getting any XP for the lanes, for example, because they ganked you with 4 or 5 people. So it's really important that you keep that in mind. Again, we're still up a level, and the talent more importantly, so we're contesting the mid-shrine as well. And we pause it right here. So again, they're 5 against our 4, so we probably should be backing away. That being said, we have talent advantage. We have 3 heroics ready, while they have all 5s. That being said, 2 of the heroics don't do any damage. Actually, 3 of the heroics don't do any damage. Force Wall and Avatar don't do any damage. Blink Heal obviously doesn't do any damage. And Horrify we have to be careful with because it can lead to damage of Tracer. Tracer's heroic is not ready actually. So they're engaging into us with very little damage that we have to fear. Also, the boss is pushing on the keep, and we have the Vikings that can contest bottom shrine still with the last 4 shots. So contesting us here is actually super risky because if we get a couple of kills, we might even reach 16 before they reach 13. But they can't do anything else. They have to engage into us because there's nothing else left. The only issue that we have is that my silence on Malfurion is not up, meaning that the disruption of their play is not as easy as it could have been. But as you can see, they only get 13 now, so they fought a talent down, 4 versus 5, well, 5 versus 4 in their advantage, but they still lose. And again, I think it's partially because they took 2 supports with the Tracer. I'm gonna speed it up a little bit again. So again, we're staying together, respawning Sylvanas. It's gonna be there with us. Li Ming is here. And we took keep already, and this is the worst thing against the Vikings. Having 3 lanes pushing, constantly pushing, or 1 lane constantly pushing in this case, is really bad. But the Vikings keep constant pressure on the lanes anyway, but now we have catapult support. So this is really, really bad, and this is exactly what you want to do as the team that plays with the Vikings. Stay together, push, and keep it controlled. And again, now look at what they're doing. They have to have 2 people bottom to clear out the wave. There was also a camp. Tracer is trying to get a little bit of XP because they're again 2 levels down and the talent down. And this duo doesn't scare anybody. So we can just push into here onto that keep because there's no way that these 2 can actually contest us with the talent down. On top of that, we now pulled the Vikings with us. They're now also here on level 16 with all of their talents and their heroic play again. So we want to fight now, and we want to take more keeps. Again, out of position Muradin. The Tracer also gets silenced. Boom. There's nothing that the enemy team can actually do against this at the moment, and this is why the Vikings are so strong. They're now split up again once again. Shiny positions them very well, takes bottom, another camp, while we're taking the keep. And there's nothing that they can do to contest onto us. So what should you do in your Hero League games? Basically, the most important thing is that if you have a Vikings player, you have to trust him. First of all, that's always in the case in Hero League. If somebody plays a hero that is very special, or maybe you consider it like a very strong hero, but also a very difficult hero, the only thing that you can do in these cases is trust the person that picks the hero. Sure, you all have seen the Illidan's that die 20 times, and so forth and so on, but the best thing to do in these cases is draft around that hero. So for Illidan, for example, you want to maybe pick Tessada and the second support because he's very strong with that. And with the Vikings, try to pick something that helps out the Vikings. So, for example, Sylvanas is very good with the Vikings because she has a very strong push power with the team. While, for example, as Zagara, if she takes Nidus, that's not very good because you want to be with the team, you don't want to be away from the team. And you also don't want to have 2 split pushers. You want to have something that enables the push. So, for example, with the Zagara, you want to go more than and stay with the team to have the similar effect to what our Sylvanas had in this game. On top of that, you want to have a good support that is mobile. So Rhaegar, Uther, Malfurion, Auriel, basically anything that is bribing. Even like Morales and Uther, who are not considered to be the best healers, are working very well in those compositions because you basically split pushing with the 4-man rotation. You probably want to have a 1 burst hero, so in our case that is Li Ming. You can also play Kel'Thas or Jaina. That works very well in a push because she has great wave clear, but also zones out enemies with the Blizzard. On top of that, you always want to have a strong tank that is able to frontline for you, because he has to peel for the 4-man rotation, or for the 4-man push lineup. So Johanna is really good because she can basically push away heroes. She has a cleanse on her own, meaning she doesn't rely on cleanse of the support, and also makes life easier because she can just run away if she's left alone. On top of that, you want to have that one special hero. As I said, Sylvanas, Zagara, something that gives you a lot of push. Or for example, we played a game on Blackheart's Bay with a Sonya, who just basically took care of all of the camps. So something that is special in the way of it allows you to have one person that has a special ability to do a cool thing like pushing, murking, keeping people alive, whatever you want to call it. In a ganking situation where you want to play a 4-man gank squad, it's obviously important to have at least 3 heroes that have some sort of CC. So for example, what doesn't work well is, let's say, Muradin, Tychus, Tyrande and Sylvanas. That would be a pretty horrible ganking situation because, first of all, Sylvanas doesn't have any burst. Tychus doesn't provide a lot of CC unless you hit the grenade. Actually, nice escape here, I was nearly dead. And then you only have 2 CCs in Muradin and Tyrande. So in these compositions, for example, what works very well is like a double tank composition, ETC Muradin and a Tyrande, or ETC Uther and maybe what else is there? Maybe as a Sonya even. So if you have like 2 or 3 CCs early, or something that's reliable on level 10 as well, like a Thrall Earthquake, a Root. Zul is also very good. He has push and gank. So these are things that you play with the Vikings just to basically have something that gives you the chance to push really, really hard. So we're now watching for the last fight that's going to happen here. Just keep in mind again that you want to draft around the Vikings. That doesn't mean you have to draft exactly what I'm saying here. You don't have to draft a push lineup or a gank lineup. You can just also mix and match. But the more mix you do, the more difficult it will get for you to actually play with the Vikings. Because the issue that I see a lot of people have in Hero League is basically stay with one Viking. They split up their heroes. So one of the guys is top, one of is middle, there's 3 bottom, nobody really knows what they're going to do. In our case, we had the 4 people, Mav, Johanna, Sylvanas, and Li Ming, that perfectly fit into that situation. We have Sylvanas who can push early, and she disables towers, so we get less damage. Again, Mafrian healing and mana for Li Ming, who's our burst. And then Johanna is just overall a very good hero. As you can see, she also has pretty much siege damage galore. And she can be running away from anything that comes our way because she has her own cleanse. So this is what you want to do with the Vikings. You want to have the Vikings split on the lanes and basically be your XP soaker. And then with the 4 heroes that you have, create situations where the enemies have to react to that. Force them to come to you, contest you in the lane. Force them to take the objective, but basically interrupt them. Something that works very well is also with the Tyrande on Curse Hollow, that you just always interrupt the tributes. Because the more interrupts you have, and the more you interrupt the tributes on Curse Hollow, the more the enemy has to stick around for the tribute and let the Vikings soak on the lanes on their own. This means you get more levels, faster XP, and you're up a level. And then you're up a talent. And then you can fight and look for a fight. Because once you have a talent advantage, there's nothing that the enemy can do. They don't want to run away from you, but they can't because they have to contest the Vikings. So keep all that in mind. And again, just try to keep together as a team. Be a 4-man team and try to do something. That's what you can do, and that's what you should be doing with the Vikings. So that's it for me today. I hope you learned something from those Viking games. If you have any questions, as always, put them in the comments. And other than that, I will see you next time. Have a good one. Bye bye.